Welcome back to Walls of Horror, and today, believe it or not, is another book tag. I have recently been tagged like 18 times, so I'm trying to get caught up. There will be a pretty good bit in the next couple weeks at least. So this tag is actually the in or out tag, and this is a resurrected tag from years ago. To my understanding, it was created by Rick McDonald. I was tagged by the king of tags, Mike at Bibliophile Bookscapes, and I'm gonna go through the prompts. And so kind of the what you're doing here is there's the prompt is a statement, and you say in or out or yes or no. I'm sure there will be a couple that I ramble about, but we'll see. So prompt number 1, reading the last page first. That is out. No, I don't know what kind of psycho does that. Number 2, enemies to lovers. Yes, in. Pretty much any trope. There are several tropes in here. Any trope can be done well, and any trope can be done extremely badly. So if it's done well and it fits the story and the writer did a good job with it, then I'll roll with it. If it doesn't work, then I'm out either way. So, number 2, enemies to lovers. In. Number 3, dream sequences. Yes, I really like dream sequences. I feel like they, especially in horror, they can do so much work as far as filling in the gaps, showing the deterioration of the character's mental state, right? Like dreams are our subconscious trying to process the previous day and what's going on, and it can help move the story along as well. So yeah, I'm a big fan of dream sequences, both in reading and in writing. I write a fair bit of dream sequences. Love triangles, mostly out. I don't, it kind of depends on how it is. Like if somebody's cheating on someone else, I would be out. If you have like, two guys attempting to woo the same girl, and or vice versa, two girls kind of vying for to date, one guy or something like that, it could work out. But as far as like going behind your wife's or your husband's or boyfriend or girlfriend or whoever's back to doing something with someone else, that's definitely out. Cracked spines, no problem at all. I don't know, maybe if it's a limited edition, then maybe not. But books are made to be read; they're meant to be enjoyed. Paperbacks are not. Are not made to be precious. They're made to be enjoyed. So if you are, if you need to, I think this one's already cracked. But yeah, if I'm somewhere low light or something, or I'm at a weird angle, then I'll pop it open. Now, if it is something that I know for a fact that I want to keep for a while, I'll try to be a little bit easier with it. But so cracked spines, I'm in. Back to my small town is number 6. So again, this is another well-trodden trope, and like with other tropes, I'm in if it's done well, I'm out if it's done poorly. Alright, so number 7 is monsters are regular people. Bit of both. So this can be taken several ways. Number 1, monsters are regular people. This can mean that the monster is also a person and deserves to be left alone and live their life, even though they're a werewolf that is murdering people. In that case, I'm out of it. You see this a lot with Lovecraft. If you're familiar with the story of the Shadow over Innsmouth, there are deep ones or evil fish people that live in a reef near the town of Innsmouth. And at the end of the story, the government bombs the reef or torpedoes the reef. And there are probably hundreds of stories where like the deep ones are the good guys and they're all lame as hell. So I don't like stuff like that. But another way of looking at it would be that actual humans are the monsters, right? So if you had a non-supernatural story, like a serial killer type story, in that case, the moral of the story is that we're the monsters, right? There is no monster. again, something like that I could work with. So number 8 is no paragraph breaks. Pretty much out. I'm fine with long paragraphs. I'm fine with long sentences. I've read William Faulkner, and so I can, as long as I'm fine with long ones. But I know Jack Kerouac, I believe, when he originally wrote the Road, it was on like one long roll of paper in just like one big ass paragraph. And I've seen editions. I've never owned one or read it, where it was like the original reel or one reel or something like that was the name of the edition, where it was just one long ass screed of the novel. And I'm definitely out on that. I didn't really enjoy The Road when I read it in its normal format. So, so I'm out on the no paragraph breaks. Multi-generational sagas. I like them. I know, definitely a lot of like epic historical novels have been written like that, and I've enjoyed several of them. Number 10, rereading. I'm 100% in on that. I love rereading. I reread my favorite stuff all the time. Number 11 is artificial intelligence. Again, it depends. If AI means like the villain is artificial intelligence, or there's a character or an aspect of the story that deals with artificial intelligence, like you see with a lot of sci-fi. One of my favorite stories, actually, would be I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison. Deals with AI. And since this prompt is from like 5 years ago, it looks like, I'm assuming that's what it means. That was before AI really existed. Nowadays, we have to make a distinction. So if you look at this in the way of an author, or rather not an author, using AI to write their book, I'm out on that. I'm in with AI being an obstacle or something, a facet inside the story. Number 12, drop caps. I don't know what that means. I meant to look it up because I saw on Mike's video that he didn't know what it meant either. So I'll just roll with like weird formatting. You definitely see this a lot more in like more experimental stuff, maybe poetry or like online type stuff, where it'll be like all caps, or like there'll be no caps, or even a uppercase letter and then a lowercase, uppercase, lowercase of like the same word. Stuff like that's real weird. I'm mostly out on it, but there's definitely been like examples where stuff like that has worked. I know the writer Joe Pulver would often do a lot of stuff with caps and exclamation points and weird formatting, and he wrote some great stories. So if drop caps means crazy formats with like capitalized and not capitalized, then mostly out, but there are a few exceptions. If it doesn't mean that, I have no clue. Please let me know down below. Happy endings, again, it depends. In the massage parlor, yes. No, I'm joking. I'm fine with happy endings. Even like being a big horror guy, I've read like short story collections by one author, and it's like they're all extremely dark, and you just get halfway through and you're just tired. You're like, when you get to the next story, you're like, well, let's see how this poor son of a bitch gets screwed over. I'm fine with happy endings. I don't want all of them to be happy endings, just like I don't want all of them to be like real dark endings or unhappy endings. So yes, I'm in on happy endings. Number 14. Plot points that only converge at the end. So yes, I'm in on that. This works really well with like mystery stories or thriller novels, stuff like that, where maybe you're not sure who the villain is or who the murderer was, or what it meant that our protagonist was targeted, and then several things come together at the end, and the butler did it. So yeah, I'm in on plot points converge at the end. Number 15, detailed magic systems. So I'm out on this. I do think that I know Brandon Sanderson is a very popular fantasy author, and his big thing is very detailed magic systems. And to me, that at that point it is science fiction. At the point that magic is completely understood, it's no longer magic, and now it's science. It's basically chemistry. And so I'm out on that. I really like sword and sorcery. I like for the magic to be very dark and mysterious, and usually the magic user is the villain. So yeah, I'm out on detailed magic systems. Number 16, classic fantasy races. So I'm assuming this means like elves, dwarves, even like hobbits or gnomes or whatever else, whatever other word that D&D came up with for hobbits, halflings. They're okay. I don't want them in every story, and I never want them to be like the majority of the story. I want, like 80-90% of the population to be human, if not all of it. And then, later, like some of the, I'm going to reference D&D again, a lot of some of the really weird, like half human, half bird, lizard, dog guy. I don't like that stuff. I just kicked the tripod, my bad. Yeah, I don't like all the weird stuff. So as long as they're not the majority of the story, as long as I do prefer human centric stories, and the other races are okay to be, they're okay in moderation, but then some of the more out there stuff, this just gets goofy to me. Number 17, unreliable narrators. You can't really be a big horror fan and not enjoy unreliable narrators. So this is where, like whoever's telling you the story that you're reading, whether it's in first person or it's in third person, you cannot completely trust them. They might be lying. They might be shading the story in such a way that it makes them look better or someone else look worse. Edgar Allan Poe is great with unreliable narrators, so I'm definitely in on those. Number 18, evil protagonist. Yes and no. Right. For instance, you could, as long as they're not all evil, right? Like, I don't want to read a novel from like inside Sauron's head. Does that make sense? The protagonist could be like a bank robber, as long as he's also like a regular guy in some other ways, and he's not completely, detestable. This does probably an overused trope, but if they could start out evil and then have a character arc where they're better at the end. So this one's a mixed bag. I'm closer to out than in, but either or. The Chosen One, I think overall I'm in. A lot of Chosen One stories, it's a trope that's extremely like ran into the ground, and a lot of them are not very well done. But also, I wrote, it ended up being like a novella, and it'll never see the light of day. But I did have the idea of writing the story from like a side character's point of view. It was a fantasy story. There was going to be this great hero to like save the realm or whatever. Anyway, it was just boring. It's the same if you read like a war novel. It would, or a war, even like nonfiction, a narrative, right? A history book. It's a more exciting read to read from like the war hero, to read what they did and to read what the generals decided to do, than it is, Jimbo cowering in his trench, right? So chosen ones are not bad. They're often, like I said, overused and poorly done. But I'm in on the chosen one. Number 20, when the protagonist dies. Just like with happy endings, I'm also in on this. It can be a happy ending and the protagonists die. Maybe they sacrifice themselves for their loved ones. They sacrifice themselves to defeat the evil. But again, also being a horror guy, the monster gets them. It needs to always, for any horror to work, whatever the threat is, always has to have the possibility of succeeding. And it's the same, you get authors that might have like the reputation that there's always a happy ending. Well, then it kind of makes it boring. It's the same, you have an author that always has that has a reputation for always being like very ambiguous. And you're not real sure, like they didn't fall on happy or unhappy ending on themselves, and they kind of left it up to you. And just like if author always writes unhappy endings, they're going to get boring. And you're going to know that going in when you see that author's name on the book. And I think it definitely hurts the impact of the book. So yes, I'm in when the protagonist dies. I'm in on that more often than the protagonist surviving, again being a horror reader and writer, but it cannot happen all the time. 21, really long chapters. I'm in on this. It does depend. I don't mind short chapters. If it's a kind of a more fast-paced, pulpy, fun story, I'm fine with that. If the story requires long chapters, I'm okay with that, so I'm in on long chapters. Number 22 is French Flaps. And I believe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but a French flap are like these things, right? Where it opens up and you can use it as a bookmark. Is that a French flap? If so, I'm 100% in on those. If not, then I don't know what that is. I hear Alston really likes French flaps, though, over at Eternal Reading. So number 23, Deckled Edges. That is, I don't know if I can show this off too well, but where it looks like artificially aged or whatever, where the ends of the pages don't completely line up. Just like my French Flaps, I really like those as well. So I'm definitely in on French Flaps and Deckled Edges. Signed copies by the author. That's cool. It's not really anything that I would be driven to do. I've accidentally, I have a couple here that I picked up later in secondhand bookstores. One thing, I've always lived in a very rural area, so like there's not a lot of authors coming like near me. So I don't go to a lot of events like that. A handful of times that I have been at like some sort of celebrity thing. When you look at like the meet and greet line and it's like an hour long, I've got to be honest, I don't want to meet anybody on the planet that I have to wait an hour for. And so this would go the same for authors, right? I do not want to stand in a line for an hour. I would rather not have anyone's autograph. So yes, but like don't go out of your way, I guess. So maybe I'm out on them. But if I could get one pretty easily, then I'm in, if that makes sense. Dog earring pages is number 25. So this might be controversial. I'm definitely pro dog earring pages. That's how I save all of my pages, pretty much. Even if I'm not marking my place, but I want to come back to a paragraph, I dog ear the page and then keep reading. Again, books are meant to be read and to be loved and to enjoy the story and to be reread and reread and reread until they fall apart. So I'm not going to completely tear up a book, but I'm going to read it and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to write in it. I write in my books. I use pencils, pens, highlighters. So yeah, and like I said, I've mentioned this in the book haul, I love getting books from a used bookstore that have all that. I feel like these other people have also loved this book. Now I will love this book, and it will keep going on, and someone else will one day in the future. That's, you're part of part of a lineage of people who've read this old paperback. So yeah, I'm definitely in on dog-earing pages. Number 26, chapter titles instead of numbers. I don't care. Probably numbers a little bit more, but the only thing you don't want is like chapter titles to seem like, I don't know, they can be kind of cheesy, or they can give away what's going to happen in the chapter. So I probably do just prefer numbers over it. You can definitely do creative things that kind of go well with the story or with the text. I do like, and this is something I've done, where when you're writing a book or a novella or story with like a large cast of characters and you're going to be in different people's heads, I do like naming the chapter the character's name and going through it like that. Like I said, I've done that both in my writing, and I've read a good bit of books like that. So countdowns as chapter titles are pretty good as well. So, but 90% of the time, I would be pro number, so I'm mostly out on that one. Number 27 is to tag others. I'm not sure who all has been tagged. I know Mike tags half of YouTube sometimes. So I'm not going to actually tag anybody, but if you're watching this and you have not done it or you have not been tagged yet, you're tagged now. Go ahead and make the video. You can tag me and say I tagged you. That's fine. But so that will wrap up the in or out tag. Thank you, Mike, for tagging me. Thank you for your video. Anybody that's watching, comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yep, that'll wrap this tag video out, and I'll see you in the next one.